Welcome to the No Streetlights podcast. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Tim. We'll be engaging in vulnerable conversations every Friday to shine a light on what we've been through,
How it changed us, and what we learned. We want to encourage societal growth towards kindness through understanding.
These conversations and the associated language can be triggering.
Listen at your own discretion.
But please reach out if we need to be doing something better.
So, let's take a breath, relax, and be welcome.
Oh man. So Aaron, I feel like I always start off by asking how are you doing today? But I feel like I just talked to you the other day, so I think I have a pretty good idea of how you're doing today. So what I want to know is, how is our guest doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys reaching out, wanted to hear my story, and just it's nice just rapping with you guys, man. I'm feeling pretty good, excited.
Hell yeah.
So, the third member of our crew today, Mr. Nick Miller. He's a good old friend of mine. As soon as I met him, I just felt him just radiating this warmth and welcome. And I was like, man, I need to be around this dude. So we served together for a little while, kind of adjacent to each other. I don't think we ever worked directly together for long periods of time. But anytime I was around him, I really felt at home. And so as we've kind of gotten back into this after our short break for various reasons, I said, I feel called to talk to Nick. So we got him on the horn. Nick, how would you like to introduce yourself, my friend?
Yeah, I wasn't ready. No, I'm just kidding. I'm Nick. I am a cat dad, husband. I've been in the Navy for 18 years, Navy chief, vegan, and that kind of summarizes everything I would call myself, right? Like the hashtags of Nick Miller.
Damn. 18 years. You're definitely
almost done.
Almost at the end of that tunnel. That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, they got me.
How'd they get you?
I didn't have a good mentor, or I didn't do my own homework to figure out that if your EAOS is not at that 20-year mark and you're like a little over a year, the Navy doesn't have to extend you at where you're at. So I was given you're either going to go unaccompanied for 18 months or you go accompanied for 36 months when you leave your current duty station. So as to not be unaccompanied for 18 months, I'm actually extending in the Navy. So I'm in for 22 years now. My tunnel got longer.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the tunnel is just a little bit longer than it needs to be.
Just a little bit.
Almost there.
Yeah.
For our listeners who aren't watching on YouTube, I would also add hashtag SwoleAF, because Nick Miller is larger than life. And we're going to get into a bodybuilding journey later.
I'm sorry. Hashtag what, Aaron? Because you broke up there right at that moment and you came back on with larger than life. And I was like, huh.
I thought it just broke up on my end. And I was like, damn, my Wi-Fi.
My bad. So I would also add hashtag SwoleAF. Because for those of us on YouTube, Nick Miller's a large lad. He's larger than life. But he's a big old teddy bear, man.
Depends on who you talk to. But
I was looking at the video. I was like, dang, man. I was like, this guy's got some muscle, huh?
I appreciate it. Yeah, I guess gym rat would be another hashtag in there. That's probably my only one of my only hobbies. Probably like two things I do outside of the other things I said.
That's fair.
No.
Hashtag cat dad, hashtag vegan, hashtag Navy chief, hashtag
there you go.
Swole Nation. Okay.
Boom.
So what's your story, Nick? Like what have you experienced through your times in the military, before the military, just your life?
Well, I mean, my time in the military has been really good, right? I got to go to some really cool duty stations. It started off rough. I started off in Cuba. So that wasn't fun. Detainee ops too. It wasn't just Cuba. It was dodge poop in Cuba, you know?
Yikes.
But then from there, it got better, right? I went to Japan for the first time. I got to go to Hawaii. I went to Washington State. I got to go to Greece 2 years. I got to go back to Japan again. So yeah, it was a pretty amazing time. What I think is important and like the message that I wanted to kind of bring out on this particular podcast is that I had all this great life, but as you guys probably know, those different duty stations and just what comes with being in the military, alcohol got involved real early on for me and continued to progress and progress and progress, right? When I went to Sasebo the second time, I got in trouble because I did something very stupid. And I emphasize the I because, yeah, I was blackout drunk, but I don't blame alcohol for my decisions. It was my decision to get that drunk, right? Didn't kill anyone. Don't want to talk too much about the incident. I don't want to dwell on it, but I did do a thing, you know, and it got me in front of the captain at the end of the day and put a huge halt in my career progression for almost 6 years. During that time that I was talking about, I was pretty much EP sailor from E5 and above, nonstop. EP. I made first class in Greece. First eval was an EP. So for your non-Navy listeners, that's one of the higher evaluations that you can get, right? I even got, as a first class, you guys might, a COM, a letter of accommodation. So that's normally only given out to
rare.
Yeah, and as my first E6 end of tour, EP, and a COM, I was ready to go. Boots on ground in Sasebo. Once again, the Chiefs mess kind of took me in. They were like, "You're going to be one of us in a year," you know. So once again, evals are rising. I'm doing great things all the time. So I'm told, right? I'm not trying to sound braggy. I'm just pretty much continuously told that I am one of the higher performers of the people that I work with. But outside of work, if you didn't know me at work, you would just think that I was an alcoholic. Looking back now, at the time, I didn't think I had a problem because I was never late to work. I was doing great at work and I got a lot of praise at work. Never got in trouble either. Ever, you know, not even a negative counseling shit. So even friends and family, if I brought it up, like, I think I drink too much or I think I have a problem. No, you don't. You don't have a problem. I know guys who have a problem. They're in jail. They get DUIs. They get this. They get that. So that reaffirmed my belief that I'm fine. I'm good until I wasn't. Yeah, a lot of the times whenever people think of like somebody who has an alcohol problem or any kind of addiction issue, they typically think that their life has to be falling apart at the seams. Like in order for it to be an actual problem in your life, it means that it's taken over your life. But I mean, you're doing good at work. You're never late to work. You never get in trouble. Yeah, no, you don't have an addiction. You're enjoying yourself. You're young. You're living it up. But unfortunately, that's not always the case.
Alcohol is a huge part of the military community. And the way we tend to classify a disorder is if it's interrupting your normal life. So I understand why you wouldn't see, or why you'd allow people to say, "Nah, man, you're fine," and take that as truth. Because you're making it to work. You're sustained superior performance, as we call it in the military. But you were still fighting with a lot of stuff that you recognized, like, there's something going on here.
Yeah.
So what did that sort of reckoning, what did that lead to within yourself?
It was like I was two people. And I actually, looking back, people that knew me and hung out with me, I named my other self, my alter ego, right? I'm MA1 Miller or I'm Militime. And there were two different human beings and I could disassociate the two. And people, I felt, only wanted to be around Militime anyways, right? So when I would get off work, I would bring him to life. It's like my Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing, right? So it kind of split me into two. And I think that helped me justify, like, well, that's not really me. That's my alter ego. That's why I am outside of work. That's not the real me. But you can't be two people, I think, now. You know, you're just you and the person you're trying to run away from, maybe. But Yeah, so that kind of did split me in two, but I can't blame that on anyone else. Once again, that's on me. I split me in two. It's not other people that did it.
Yeah. So you had the incident at Sasebo.
Mhm.
What happened after that?
In the Navy, things take a long time, right? So I did what I did in November 2016, and then I didn't get in trouble and in front of the captain until well into March.
Damn, that's a long time. Jesus.
Yeah, right. I mean, you have a now that I'm a legal officer at my current command, I understand now why things take so long. There's a long, drawn out process, and
Oh
the
yeah.
chain of command wants to make sure they get it right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Especially like in my case, a 16 or a 14-year first class's career was in their hands, right? So they wanted to make sure they got it right. And I wasn't making it super easy because I was going through all the stages of grief during this time too, right? I didn't
Course.
accept that it was my fault because, hey, I'm a good sailor.
Yeah.
So I didn't speak at DRB. I pled the fifth. And I didn't speak at XOI. I pled the fifth. Although I told them all I accept blame. I know what I did got me here, but I'm not going to talk to you about the incident. I'm pleading the Fifth Amendment until I got to the commanding officer. To your question, like what happened after that, I got to go to SARP, and I think it's level 2 is the inpatient, or it's outpatient. Yeah, I went to the outpatient in SARP for Yokosuka, so I get to go home every night. I didn't have to stay in a clinic, but it was like 3 weeks worth of meetings, and you had homework, and then some of your homework was attending actual AA meetings as well, and getting to meet people who, I mean, it's not right to compare yourself during these things, but when you listen to these other people's stories, and they were well into their 40s and 50s and
Mhm.
still battling with alcohol, I was like, wow, I'm catching this early. Like when I listened to what they were doing, I'm like, I do that now, or I did that. Wow, I could be this person who now has 6, 7 DUIs under their belt on their third divorce. Or there were other people, one guy in particular, I don't remember his name and I don't want to say his position, but let's just say he was a high ranking, like executive position within one of the NEX commissary kind of world, right?
Mhm.
So to see someone else that was so high ranking, so such a high level, I'm like, this guy's got a problem. Maybe I do got a problem, because I went into the thing like I don't have a problem still.
Mhm.
These guys might have a problem. That guy might have a problem. I don't have a problem. And then finally, that little voice that used to tell me, hey, you might have a problem, it got louder. And the you don't have a problem voice got smaller. And also, what helped was they make you journal during level 2. And to this day, I still journal from time to time, and it really just it helps a lot to listen to your inner voice. Listen to yourself finally, and not discount yourself because you just put it on paper and then reread it. And you're like, oh, okay, I was feeling that, I was thinking that.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a very good tool. Journaling helps you, I guess, kind of take a inventory of your emotions in a way. I
Yeah,
think it's really important.
100%.
So you were on your path of recovery at this time, I take it.
Yeah. So I'm on my path of recovery, and during this time, I also had connected with an uncle that I didn't know very well. It was my mother's brother, Brian. And I didn't know him well, but my mom growing up always told me that he was a lot like me. I reminded her a lot of her brother, Brian. And we connected on Facebook because I would post stuff from time to time of working out or whatever. And like I said, I'm kind of a gym rat. And I was looking into bodybuilding at the time to try to like distract me. I'll get a little bit more on that too, but yeah. So Uncle Brian reached out, and we got to know each other a little better. And within 3 months of knowing Uncle Brian, pretty much found out from my mom that he had a high level terminal cancer, pancreatic cancer. So I only got to know the man for maybe 6 months before he passed away. Like it's like I got to meet him, seemed super cool, and then I just got to ask him like, "Hey, what are the most important things in life?" And he got to tell me those things, stuff to look forward to, and it was tough. I didn't even really get to know this guy, but found out he had the cancer, and then from there. In the military, we're always asked every medical appointment, do you have cancer in your family? So like I finally checked yes on a block, and it kind of dawned on me. I didn't really ever talk to my parents about that. I don't know my extended family well. So I finally asked, and they were like, "Oh yeah, your mom's sister died of cancer, and your dad's sister died of cancer, and your dad's mom died." Like so much cancer throughout both sides of my family that I just really hadn't either paid attention to, or just didn't put two and two together. So it kind of led me on a quest to figure out how to run away from cancer, right? And that led me to plant-based eating. Read a couple books. The China study was one of the first ones that kind of opened my eyes to it. If you don't know about it, it's a book. To summarize, it's been a long time since I read it, but to summarize it, someone did a study on populations in China and found the ones that had a higher plant-based diet had lower cancer rates in that area. So I was like, let's try it. I like veggies anyway. It's cool. So I shifted to a predominantly plant-based diet. And then at that time, a good buddy of mine in Sasbo, who me and Aaron served with, his name is Nick also. And he, although much younger than me, knew I needed some help because I was still struggling when I got back from SART. And he was like, "Hey, I'm going to do a bodybuilding competition. You're going to do it with me." And he took me, even though, like I said, he's probably 10 years younger than me. He took me under his wing, right? Motivated me, got me a plan, and even would assist me with his diet plan. And I would formulate it to a plant-based diet plan. And we worked out together. We talked about supplements together. We did everything together. And he kept me from drinking, honestly, because I got back from SARB. The program was great. I was like, I'm going to do it. And about a month in, my old crew was kind of like, just come to the bar. You don't have to drink. Just come to. And if I didn't have Nick then, I probably would have done it. I probably would have gone back. But Nick did keep me out of that world with the whole bodybuilding thing. So I owe a lot to him.
That's incredible. I mean, that is the definition of a battle buddy. They went to war with you, man. That's so good.
He did.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nick, also.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick. I hope you're listening to this. How did the competition go?
So it went pretty well. Other Nick, not this Nick. He took first place in his division. I think he went up against like 2 or 3 guys. I don't remember exactly. And then I took second place in mine. There was like 5 or 6 other guys going against me. It was nobody's first show but me and Nick's, though. So that's one thing that we have to brag about. Take first and second places in our different divisions on our first show. The guy that beat me was an absolute massive Japanese person. I've never seen anyone this large in Japan. Monster. It was crazy. Yeah, he was.
That's awesome.
But it was just an amazing experience, because it's 12 weeks worth of prep. And the last 3 weeks, I won't lie, I was no longer plant-based during that time. Last 4 weeks, it was just, I didn't have the drive or like I was only doing it for selfish reasons in the first place. Avoid cancer. That was all the reason I was doing it. So I didn't spend the extra time to do the homework to stay plant-based for that. But those last 4 weeks, that's dedication. I'll tell you that. When you're eating the same boiled chicken, rice, and microwave potato every day, it is.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
It's
rough.
cutting down to where you can't pinch skin away from the muscle. It's just like
Yeah.
You fried the fat between the muscle.
That sounds horrendous.
It's pretty intense, man. It was, I sent Aaron some pictures. At the end of it, I started at 225, 230 pounds, something like that. And at the end, I was 179 pounds on competition morning.
God.
That's what I weigh right now.
Yeah, I'm back
this
up to
second.
20.
That's what I weighed 3 months ago.
Yeah, 179 pounds. When the gym, they have one of those, not the weight body fat things, but the pinch test. We got it all done.
Calipers.
Me and Nick, we were both down to like 3%, and they were like, "This isn't very healthy. You guys should probably."
Holy
it's
shit!
Like for a week. Yeah. And we got real lucky too, because you only think about, when it's your first competition, at least you only think about getting to the competition. Nobody tells you that after the competition, don't go eat 6 cheeseburgers and a tub of peanut butter because you can die. Like there's an actual thing that can happen to your body. It'll go into shock and people get real sick. Like my legs exploded. Like they looked really weird and red and like blubbery. And I was like, this doesn't look right. And then someone told me like, oh yeah, you need to taper back up. You taper down, taper up. Don't just eat stuff.
Oh my God.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
I guess that's one of those things that you know if you're in that culture. I'm very clearly not in the bodybuilding culture, even though my wife and I talked about how interesting would it be to actually try that. I turned 30 back in August, and very similar to you, right? Like I suffered from a lot of like alcohol problems, so it definitely dampened a lot of my 20s. Got consumed by alcohol, filled with a lot of depression, sadness, and things of that nature. So I decided when I turned 30, I was like, just because I'm 30 doesn't mean I shouldn't be trying to live my best possible life. You know, I drank away my 20s, so I think my 30s I should try and focus on doing something better. I've been exhausted the past, ever since the beginning of the year. Like, we've just been overloaded with work. But yeah, there was talks for a little bit where the wife and I were like, we should do a bodybuilding competition. I was like, that'd be awesome. I don't know if I got the time for that, though. But who knows? Maybe I'll come to you for some advice on that, actually. Are you still doing competitions?
No, not at all.
No.
Like I said, that the diet really took a toll on me, like having to eat the exact amount of food and you start counting everything. Even in this day, like it's hard for me to look at food as not some kind of fuel. I'll look at something and I'm like, oh, I don't know, that probably has too many carbohydrates and this and that. And then I have to remind myself, like, yo, just live. just live. Life is short. You get hit by a bus tomorrow. Like have the cake.
Jesus Christ. Go out the way they do in Grey's Anatomy. Just kill you off.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a big Grey's fan, by the way.
Are you?
I was. I got up to like season 15 and then we couldn't take it anymore.
Damn.
So we need a break.
We just got up to a point a couple months ago. We got up to a point where one of the main characters were killed off. And I'm not going to say who, just in case anybody here is like, oh, Grey's Anatomy. I know they're on their 30th season, but I've been really wanting to watch that. But yeah, it just became a lot of drama, so we kind of switched off for a little bit and tried out some other different shows.
There you go.
I understand you had a hard time directly after the contest with the stuff that you didn't know you needed to learn.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying you're no longer in competition, so where did you go after you kind of honed yourself for that year, 2016, 2017?
During that year, I kind of came up with a concept, right, of like having a triangle, right, to keep you, like our deadly force triangle, but the triangle of life, really. So like a mind, body, and soul kind of concept, right? So I bought a bunch of books, and that was going to be my mind. I needed to start reading anyone I learned about on YouTube or whatever that was in a high level professional environment always talked about how they read. High level leaders in the military talk about how they read more books. So whether it's fiction or nonfiction, just stuff to make yourself better, I started buying books, right? Then the body thing obviously was bodybuilding at the time. But then when I lost that, I was like, I need something else, like quick, right? And then I got into trying to do Spartan races. So I did 2 Spartan races. And for me at the time, the soul thing, what made my soul feel good was traveling. So I made sure to try to incorporate all those things, or not all, at least 2 of them. And I did a Spartan race in Australia. So that, like, once again, kind of kept me on the straight and narrow for the most part. I won't lie, though. I got to Australia and one of my buddies was from my history too, so still ended up having some drinks, but didn't get pulled all the way back into my lifestyle from before.
It was not Miller time.
No, not really. Could have been worse. We'll put it that way, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've heard a lot of Australian stories.
Yeah. But it was a great time. Australia is a great place. And from there, like, I did more traveling, Thailand and stuff like that. But I did still kept finding myself being pulled back in because alcohol is everywhere, it's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's kind of my journey, kept going from there. And then I left Sasbo. And as you may know, but the viewers may not, when you get in trouble, I went to Captain's Mast. When you get in trouble, you're kind of disqualified, at least in my rate, from doing anything really cool right off the bat. You can't go
For
and
like
say,
2 years.
yeah, at least 2 years, no history of that. So I just had to go to some place that they needed an MA, basically, which was Port Hueneme, California at the time, which I wasn't mad about. My family's all from San Diego. It's a 3-hour drive home. I get to have my village, like you guys talk about. My support group is going to be there. And I get there, and one of the most amazing things kind of happens. A woman I served with in Washington for a very short amount of time. I wouldn't really call us friends, but more so acquaintances. We were Facebook friends. She saw me post about plant-based stuff, and she saw I did a bodybuilding competition. So she's like, I'm going to hook him up with my roommate because she's vegan. So she set us up. We went on a date. And 5 years later, this is my wife, well, 4 years later, because we've been married for 2 years now. Geez. Yeah.
Damn.
So,
Congratulations.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, I mean, that horrible event really helped me stop going down a bad path and sent me to the place where I met my wife. It was super weird. It was one of the most depressing times of my life. Going through it, I still regret my decisions, but I'm not mad about it either because I'm in such a better place. Like, who knows where I'd be right now if I didn't get in trouble.
Right.
Probably behind the wheel, wrapped around a tree or something like that,
God. One thing that Aaron and I have talked about a lot on this show, it's whenever something bad happens to you, labeling it necessarily as like a negative or a positive, like your events throughout life, it's not really beneficial to you. One way that Aaron and I have looked at things is like it's an opportunity, right? Getting in trouble was an opportunity for you to become a better person.
Yeah.
And it's led another really big important thing too is I'm a firm believer that everything that happens in your life is a canon event, right? Like it's meant to happen. And your story kind of reinforces like how I view it, right? Like my what kind of bias do they call that?
Confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias. Yeah. Your story is my confirmation bias to tell me like the mistakes that I've made in life or the mistakes that we make in life. These are things that have to happen to us in order to grow. It's our opportunity to become a better person. And I mean, you took that opportunity and you seized it and you went full balls to the wall, ham with it. You went on a bodybuilding competition. You did a Spartan race. I don't even know what a Spartan race is, but that sounds fucking dope.
They are dope.
Have you done one, Aaron?
Yeah, I did a
Nice.
short Spartan race.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite part was running up the initial hill, and I'm just
Yeah.
trucking. And the dude beside me was like, pre-gaming was a really bad idea. And I looked at him and was like, well, yeah.
Well,
And he
yeah.
just went and puked in the woods.
I assume there's a lot of running in a Spartan race. I mean,
Running, it's an obstacle course. Do you ever see the
okay.
American Gladiators when we were kids kind of thing? Like, think of that, but for 3 miles, 5 miles, and 10 miles. There's three different kinds of versions.
Which one did you do?
I did a 3 miler and a 5 miler. The one in Australia, I think, was the 5 miler. I don't remember for sure. It was, yeah. There's a sprint, a super, and an ultra, I think it is. And yeah, the sprint is the smallest one, and it still can be agony, man. Like, and anytime you don't want to do a one of the obstacles, they make you do 30 burpees to continue.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, or if you fail.
Laid back races, they'll be like, oh, if you go around the obstacle, that just adds like a minute to your time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh,
Easy.
okay.
I'll take a minute over 30 burpees.
Yeah, well, it's pretty fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you had this opportunity thrust in your face, and you took it, and you worked on making yourself better. You worked on building your body, your mind, your spirituality, and I always feel like it's very important to state. But like, if somebody ever feels like they're at rock bottom, it doesn't mean it's over.
Yeah.
You know, you have that chance to keep pushing.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely.
Yeah, and like look at you now, right? You're 4 years away from retirement. 4 years roughly, right?
Yeah, roughly.
Roughly.
And even still, like when I met my wife is finally, I think, when that soul part of the trifecta finally kind of closed, right? Because
Mhm.
yeah, I still do love traveling, but I can't really count that as something spiritual. I'm not someone who has any organized religion. I don't believe in any deity really.
Mhm.
But I don't discount anyone else for doing it. Do whatever makes you happy as long as it doesn't hurt other people or animals or the world, you know? But in meeting her and finding out what it meant to be vegan, because like I said, I was only eating plants, selfish reasons, run away from cancer, not a big deal. Cows live great lives before we eat them, kind of mindset, right?
Mhm.
In meeting her, she changed my mindset on that, and it opened my eyes to a huge world of, unfortunately, of pain that's going on all around us, but we don't see it because they're not going to show you that. Otherwise, you're not going to buy that.
Right. Yeah.
So in learning about that, it allowed me to start taking steps to do things that I think are bettering the world, bettering the environment, bettering the lives of at least animals, and then sometimes coaching people because it'll help them with their health issues as well. You know, if I can get one person to put down bacon once in a while, that'd be helpful to them, I think, for their cholesterol.
Or encourage some friends to do meatless Mondays to help clear
There
out
you
that
go.
cholesterol. And
Yeah, just for their own health. I try not to preach at all to anyone because I know not a lot of people like to hear it. So I keep it away, but it definitely did help me find like kind of a purpose, another purpose, right? So that's why it ended up being one of my hashtags earlier.
Like you said, it closed up your triangle.
Yeah, definitely.
So you met this wonderful woman that would soon be your wife, but where did you go from here?
Well, I'm here. I mean, like I said, I just kind of continued from then on. So
Mhm.
triangle's closed now, and I'm back to, all right, I need to be a performer. So Port Hueneme continued to progress, had a few slips and trips along the way, won't lie.
Mhm.
Still not perfect, still have minor regrets, but nothing as big as the previous eight, or well, at that time, maybe 12, 13 years of my career. And I ended up making Sailor of the Year, which I can't take credit for. Had a great group of people that worked for me, with me, and above me that helped boost me up. Made Sailor of the Year, left a good impact on the command, I think, created new programs, things like that. And then we transferred over. Now I'm not in trouble. So I get to go do something or work somewhere cool. So now I get to go help out wherever I can, working with the Naval Special Warfare Group here in Jeb Little Creek. So I'm the chief master arms at one of the teams over there. It's really just a role where I get to help wherever they need me, right? It's one of those roles where it's not really needed, I think, at a team,
Mhm.
but you have to be mobile and able to help, and that's what I want to do, right? Whatever needs to be helped, whatever little job, there's no job too small for me to make sure it gets done. Did that for a year, and then was finally selected for chief petty officer, but that was 5.5 years after my incident, which was literally told to me by the CMC. When I walked out of Captain's Mass, he was like, "You gave a really great speech, and I think you changed a lot of what the captain was originally going to say to you. But just know that this is probably going to be a 5-year speed bump in your career. So brace yourself for that." And like clockwork, 5.5 years later, I picked up Chief Petty Officer. And now I'm here, and I try to share my story with performers and non-performers in the Navy that, hey, you might think you're doing good, but it's what's under the cover, right? Your car can look really clean, but if you don't have a motor, or if you're putting diesel in your gasoline, you're gonna come to a halt real fast.
Yeah.
And yeah, not a big car guy, so I hope that landed.
I think you nailed it. I don't think you can put
Okay.
diesel in. Actually, I don't know. Aaron, you're the car guy here.
yeah, don't do that.
Okay. All right.
Do not.
That's a
Yeah,
thumbs up from Aaron to not do that. Gotcha.
easy day.
Easy day.
But yeah, that's where I'm at now, man. I'm just real happy I get to share that story,
Yeah.
especially in your guys' platform. I think what you guys are doing is huge. It's super important to just have normal people, it seems like, on the show to talk about their experiences so that other normal listeners can hear it and be like, I resonate with that. That hits home. And it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to not do anything about it.
And it's not okay to hurt people. That's one thing I've heard very recently that is really deeply ingrained is all feelings are welcome, all actions are not.
Mm-hmm.
You're allowed to have an internal reaction to something, but once you lash out and create more harm, now you're fucking up.
Yeah.
So you really got to sit there and deal with your shit before you come out and interact with it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm dealing, man. Yeah, I am. I won't lie. Still dealing. I mean, I'm sure, like you guys said, you had your own issues coming up, right?
Right.
And I what I try to tell myself is it took me like 18, or not 18, it took me like 15 years of doing dumb stuff. So it could take that long at least before I'm in a good place. It's kind of like when you try to help someone with weight loss, it took 10 years to put the fat on. Don't expect it to come off in 1 year. It's the same thing with what you did to your brain for 15 years of pounding alcohol into it. It's not going to change overnight.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
No.
you've developed these deeply ingrained habits,
Mm-hmm.
and those carry their own energy. And you've reinforced them for so long. It's gonna take time to build something back that's gonna take the place of that. Like you said, there was a void after you did bodybuilding, and you were like,
Mm-hmm.
idle hands.
Mm-hmm.
What am I gonna do to keep me from going back to this previous behavior pattern?
Yeah.
I do wonder what's at the root of that. I know we talked a couple times about some stuff that alcohol kind of enabled for you. Would you be willing to go into that at all? Maybe.
Yeah, for sure. We could talk about that as well. If I know exactly what you mean. So I think that alcohol and the whole invention of the Militime thing was a cloak kind of, or a chameleon kind of thing, so I could blend into people easier because I wasn't always comfortable in social situations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what I thought was expected of me at the same time, right? But that probably came from growing up. I didn't grow up in a segregated community by any means, right? But as most kids, I would imagine a lot of high schools still end up like a little bit of a prison yard where certain cultures stick with other certain cultures. I'm mixed, black and white. And the reason I wasn't super close with my family at the time is my parents left an area where it wasn't really, it was still kind of frowned upon, in their day and age for a black woman, or sorry, a white woman and a black man to, be together and be married together. She's from more of a countryside of Illinois. He's from Chicago. People still don't want to see that right now, when they're growing up. So they moved out to California, very, very more welcoming to interracial relationships and stuff like that. But even still growing up, I always had this feeling if I was around black kids that I was the white kid. And if I was around white kids, I was the black kid, and just never felt accepted. So with that, I ended up getting my own kind of group of friends. And then once you get into sports, people get a lot more intermingled. But still, I would get asked questions like, are you white or black? From whichever race was asking. Or if I was with a certain race, they would be like, oh, you're pretty cool for a black guy, or you're pretty cool for a white kid. Like it would happen all the time. So I never knew who I was.
Yeah.
So I would do my best to blend in with whatever culture I could when I was younger. And this was before alcohol. If I was around Hispanic kids, I would literally develop an accent to try to, fit in the best of my ability. So I never felt like I fit in, like with anyone. Looking back, I probably wasn't really viewed that way. It's just how I viewed myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that transferred into the military as well. I got in the military. I didn't know who I was. I didn't have a culture per se that I identified with. So social anxiety and whatnot led me to drink a bit. And I noticed when I was drinking, people were laughing and nobody tried to tell me, you're too white to hang out with us, you're too black to hang out with us, you're this, you're that. And even if they did, I just accepted it and kept drinking and having fun. And everyone liked me. So I felt, so I was Miller time. They want to have Miller time around and drink with Miller time and this, that. And that's what I became. It was easier to just have a few drinks and be able to hang out with people. But then that translated into everything I did from then on. Just to go on a date, I would show up early and drink in my car for a little bit because of the social pressure of having to talk to someone without alcohol. And I didn't want them to see me pounding alcohol in front of them so that I could talk to them. So I was like, okay, I'll show up a little early, have 2 drinks, and then I'll go in and have 2 drinks. And to them, I'll have only had 2 drinks. But that wasn't the case,
Yeah.
And that's how I could talk to people easier and easier. But it's just so silly looking back now because at work, I didn't need that. I could speak to anyone at work. So why did I need it as soon as the uniform came off? What sense did that make? It really makes no sense. The uniform came off and all of a sudden it's like, what, did my shield go away? And now I'm vulnerable. All right, better drink. So I'm armored up again.
Yeah, that is, a lot of people view their work or their title or the uniform as armor or a shield.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not Aaron Keith Ash. I am MA1 Ash.
Yeah.
And that dichotomy does kind of create a dissociative tendency where you're 2 different people every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting take that I'm grateful that you shared with us just now.
Thanks. I try.
Another thing too, I found it really interesting how you were describing how it's almost like you spiraled, right? Like you weren't drinking because you were like sad necessarily. I feel like a lot of people talk about their origin of, I started drinking because depression, anxieties and stuff well, in your situation, yeah, like social anxiety, right? But like, I find that interesting that the way you mentioned it, because we had another guest from and they do their own podcast as well called Recovery is Fucking Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him, his name is Mike. He was telling us a lot about how he started getting into becoming like drinking and his spiral downward. And a lot of it started from social anxieties, where he felt like when he would drink, he would fit in more and be able to like blend in with people around him and be able to like hang out and talk and communicate, but he needed that alcohol to do that.
Yeah.
And, it's so insane to think about it, but you're the second person I've heard talk about this, and you're not the only person. You're the second person I've heard on this show talk about this, and you're not the only person
Michael
I've talked
last
to.
week.
Yeah, you're right, Michael, as well. You're right. You're the third person that's been on our show now that's talked about this, and you're not the only person. Like, this isn't the only setting I've heard this before. So it just goes to show, like, alcohol, it can really be a spiral. One moment you're having a couple beers just to hang out with the boys, and then the next thing you know, man, you're pounding down drinks just so you can go on a date.
Yeah.
It's awful.
And that's another big thing that Michael talked about last week is you never know which decision is going to be the one that changes your life.
Mm-hmm.
So you do really have to guard each decision. Do you really want to have a drink, or do you feel like you need to have a drink? So is that coming from you, or is that coming from some sort of cognitive distortion and misperceived whatever?
Mm-hmm.
I do think you're supposed to be a main character. Depressing yourself is not a good way to achieve that.
No. 100%.
Yeah.
It's got sad. We need to talk about something happy.
Well, how about this then? Nick, what does the future hold for you outside of retiring? Like, what do you want to do?
Well, the immediate future is me going on deployment here real soon.
Okay, that's depressing. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's depressing. So let's go past that.
Yeah.
I definitely want to retire in the next 4 years. I want to become a father within the next year, hopefully. Love to move probably back to Washington State. I only spent a little bit of time there, but I found it beautiful. It's close enough home to where a 2-hour flight, I can get to her parents, my parents, or her father. Her father lives out in Colorado area, and everyone else is down in Southern California.
Mhm.
So that'd be awesome. No more bodybuilding, that's for sure. But I would love to do another Spartan race. The whole goal was to do all 3 levels,
Mm.
but I only did the first 2. And so it's been so long that I'd probably have to start from the beginning and work my way back up. So yeah, that'd be my body goal probably for my triangle, because it's still there for me. Reading a lot of books, that's in the future, and that's currently.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, I don't know, something with activism, hopefully. I don't know about a job, but a side thing where I can be a bigger voice for voices or for things that don't have voices. So animals, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Have there been any books that you're reading right now or read recently that you would want to make any recommendations to anybody?
We do need a reading list.
Yeah. We're trying to put one together.
So for just like growth or inspiration, maybe I would say Start With Why was really good by Simon Sinek. I might be mispronouncing his name, Simon Sinek. But yeah, Start With Why is a good book. And he also has Leaders Eat Last. It's a pretty good leadership book. I won't lie, it gets a little repetitive. You kind of get the message about halfway through, but it's a good book where he just gives stories how he's briefed high level executives and people in leadership on why their leadership skills aren't, or why their leadership styles aren't really working, because they're managing, they're not leading, kind of, in for the most part, right? Simple Path to Wealth is a great financial book for me that I learned about. I don't know if you guys are into finance at all, but I thought that I could just invest in Netflix and get rich one day, and then I could have if I hadn't have sold so damn early. But anyways,
Well,
I'm
neither
really
here nor there.
a big proponent now on teaching people about their TSP and helping people invest in the S&P 500 for whatever brokerage they're in. And I learned that in The Simple Path to Wealth and The Little Book of Common Sense Investing. Those 2 books really kind of sent the message home that for long-term wealth, for the future of my children, I should invest this way. And one day they might break out of the middle class, or at least become upper middle class.
Or just not be chained to a 9 to 5. At
Yeah.
Exactly. 100%. Yeah. That's the dream. Right? Just to be able to wake up and live your life on your terms is a nice dream to have.
Yeah.
So those would be my 4 right off the bat. But if you want fiction, I just started reading The Fourth Wing, which I think is tailored more towards women, but it is a good book. I'm not gonna lie. It's like a Harry Potter, but for adults. Like there's a lot of death and destruction and adult scenes, but it's good.
Hell yeah.
So the thing that I want to ask about that
Mhm.
is why is your marriage happy and healthy?
Shared values, communication, and I mean, I feel like those are kind of the cornerstones, though, right? Communicating and then having shared values are 2 huge things, right? And then just the obvious one to me, at least, is love. I love everything about her, even the things I don't like about her. You know, so that would probably be the 3 right there. Just straight up love for everything about her and the shared values. Communicate.
So what do you get to do on a regular basis for your wife?
What do I get to do?
What do you get to do to sustain your relationship? Because I've been feeding the animals a lot, and I have not been as grateful for it as I should be.
I think looking at things that I do as things I get to do, it's funny you mention that, because that has become a reality for me recently, right? So like we kind of have our own routine. Whoever feeds the animals, the other one scoops the poop for all the litter boxes in the house, right? And we split it, or we'll do vice versa. And sometimes if I do both, it's not like, oh, I had to do both. In my mind, I'm like, I'm going on deployment soon. She's going to have to do all this by herself for the next 6 months, most likely. It's like, I got to do that for her. Or what I love to do is cook. I like being the chef, right? I love to be the one to start, to prep. I love when we cook together, it like really, really makes me happy because every now and then, I don't know if you guys get this with your significant others, but we get in a vibe where we almost don't have to even talk and just things are happening in the kitchen. And it's like, I get real excited. Like, man, she knew exactly what to do, what to stir, what to season, while I'm chopping this and flipping that. And it's a great feeling. So that's probably one of the things I love to get to do is cook with her or cook for her.
I love that.
Anything similar with you guys?
Yeah, I would actually say on all fronts, it's the exact same thing in my marriage. And I tell people too, because you talk to a lot of people who are always like, I don't want to go home or whatever, or I hate. One big thing that somebody told me recently was like how they hated cooking with their significant other. And I was like, why? Like I have so much fun with it. And it's exactly the same way with like you, right? Like we get into a groove, we talk a lot. Like we talk a lot to each other though. But we're always on the same wavelength. So we end up just repeating each other. But yeah, we'll be like, I'm chopping up these green onions. She'll be like, yeah, I'm also going to chop up whatever. And I don't know. It's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with everything that I do with my wife. So I completely feel you on all fronts there. And I scoop a lot of the cat poop. Most of the cat poop.
Same with you, Aaron?
So for me, my wife is so brave and so fierce, and she fights dudes. So I'm bad with anger and emotions in general.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm talking to my wife, I have to come correct, or she will fix it. And that's a job I wouldn't wish on anyone, but I'm so glad that she's accepted that job. That whenever I'm sitting there under my storm cloud, she gets to wave at the storm cloud. And if it rains, shit, who cares? We've been wet before.
Yeah.
So the other day, we had some mix-ups, and I was a very threatening storm cloud with Tim. And I still feel a ton of regret and shame about that, like we talked about a couple times. But the whole day, I was just so pissed off because I couldn't control this thing that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then my wife got home, and I was like a kid again, man. I was like, every time she turned around, I'm slapping her butt, And she was like, hey, how are you doing? And I was like, man, I was so angry today. But now you're home. Yeah. And every time I see her, it's just like, I feel kind of like Hyland. When we saw each other on the slopes, we're always like dancing and like, screaming as we're whooping down the hills and stuff. And I feel that when I see my wife. And I feel bad for people that don't have that. People that don't see their partner and feel that relief.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same, man.
That's one thing that I think we need to say more and kind of push in that direction is like, you've got to have somebody on your team who makes you want to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhat.
For sure. I mean, Tim just said something that resonated a lot. With deployment coming up, I've had multiple guys come and tell me, I can't wait to go on deployment. I'm like, why? Why do you, I mean, I guess I get it. You're excited maybe to work in the NSW community. I get that. But no, it's always like, I get to do whatever I want. And I don't have to ask my wife or something like. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I get whatever I want with my wife, and it's fantastic. I love every second of it. We play video games together. We watch trash TV together. We go on walks. We do all kinds of cool stuff. Well, it's cool to me. I have a blast. Like I'm dreading it, but it's not for the work. It's not for anything. It's that I'm not gonna have my best friend with me.
Yeah.
And that sucks. Because, I mean, she really is. My wife is my best friend and my wife, Yeah.
My wife is also my boyfriend.
Yeah. Your wife is also my wife's boyfriend. I don't know why.
Yeah. Has she been leaving y'all seat up too?
Yeah, I don't know what the hell. Honestly, Nick, I'm just kind of curious. Did you ever think that you would have this kind of relationship like a couple years ago or whatever?
No, like when I was
when you were going through your time.
Yeah, when I was going through my time, I kind of just figured I'd probably be like some old dude in my late 40s, and I finally settled down, and I'd probably end up just like a lot of other old drunks that that had a couple divorces under their belt, or something like that. I didn't really foresee a super duper I never thought I'd be married with 3 cats,
Yeah.
and vegan, 3 cats, married. If you had asked me 6 years ago, I would have been like, shut up. There's no way in the world I'd be any of those things.
No. Cats. Come on, man.
Yeah. 3 cat. And not that I didn't like cats. I just, I don't know. It's not manly to have cats, that was I loved cats as a little kid. And then when you join the military, everyone's got a dog, and they have to clip their ears and their tail to make them look tough. And
gotta have a pit bull. I mean,
if you don't have a pit bull, what are you doing?
Or German Shepherds. I mean,
yeah.
You got options.
Yeah.
2 options.
Man, there's been a lot of people out here who've been getting these massive, massive fucking dogs. They're the kind that are used for like bear hunting. And
jeez.
I can't remember what the hell they're called off the top of my head.
Corsos?
No, not the Corsos. It's some kind of Akita.
Oh.
But anyway,
boxers were meant for bear hunting.
Boxers would be. So anyway, though, like one of my closest friends out here, she's like 5 foot. I'm gonna be nice to her. 5'3". I was gonna say 5 foot even, maybe shorter, but she's like 5'3".
With the boots.
Yeah, with the boots. And she had this dog. It was fucking massive. And now there's another girl out here who's probably about the same height, right, roughly in that 5'3", and she got the same kind of fucking dog. And I'm like, what is up with these people? Like these tiny ass people getting these massive. I'm like, if you take this dog on a walk, he or she decides that they're gonna go chase after whatever the hell they see. They're taking you with you. Like they're a horse. You can put a saddle on that thing and ride it.
Yeah.
But it's so funny to me. Yeah, it's just like military culture. They all want big dogs, and it's got to be the biggest, baddest, newest dog that they can find.
Yeah.
German Shepherds are so last year. We got to get one of these fucking Akitas, man.
It's crazy. And I mean, I might be wrong. I'd have to look it up, but I feel like the bigger the dog, the lower the lifespan too, right? And a lot of these dogs have just been kind of bred into existence.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we're just breeding these very short-lived giant animals into existence to either look cool or for home protection. It's the only two, it's weird.
Yeah.
If you don't want anyone coming in your house, get a Chihuahua.
Yeah.
I hate Chihuahuas so much. I wouldn't even come home. If I had a Chihuahua, I would not come home. Oh, there we go. Boxers. Those are cute, though.
Yeah, there you go.
They max out at like 40, 50 pounds. They can jump an 8-foot fence, no problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
And they do like a little worm dance when they're happy. They're very cute. I saw a meme the other day where it was like, it was somebody who was like, yeah, I researched months and months to figure out what kind of dog I wanted to adopt, and I finally landed on it, and I found him. And then there's a person holding a cat, and they're like, I found him in the trash. And I'm like, yeah, that's that's cat owners, man. And like, we just find him. We're like, oh, okay, you're coming home with us. But yeah, Nick, I'm so happy to hear that your life is full of love. You got a lot of direction going on now. You're a cat dad. You're getting close to that point where you can retire. You've focused a lot of your energies. You've done a lot to help the people around you who've experienced some of the stuff that you're going through, that you had gone through. And I would call you a positive force, right? Like your goals, the way that you're moving through life, you want to help people change, get better. And I'm just so glad that we could bring you on and get to hear your story. And hopefully we can continue working together as a positive force for good out there in the world. And let's just change one life, man.
Yeah. 100%, man. Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. The whole reason I wanted to be on here was hopefully we can change one person.
Hell yeah. Before we run this closer, Aaron, do you got any last things for Nick?
Just like Michael said last week, thank you for choosing progression over regression.
Yeah.
There is no staying the same, and I'm glad you said that we are looking to trend upward.
Yeah. 100%, man.
So, thank you for shining your light with us. We're going to go ahead and run this closer.
Alrighty. Thanks, guys.
And a huge thank you to all of you for listening.
This has been Aaron.
And Tim with Nick.
A massive shout out to Hyland Markle for the original music.
Share this episode with somebody who could benefit from it.
Let us know what you want to hear our take on.
Or message us to collab.
All pertinent links can be found in the episode description.
Be good to yourselves and each other.
We love you. Quick little legal disclaimer for you. Our podcast is for entertainment purposes and cannot be substituted for professional medical advice.
If you need help now, please call 911 or 988 for immediate intervention.
Bye.